don't know if it was like the algorithm of Google or whatever trying to defeat itself. Like it started showing me DAO stuff, and it's like, oh my God, there's this whole different world, right? Like this whole another use case for crypto that could be really cool and used for like social good and like really changing the world and having such a big impact.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Orange Pill Club podcast. Today we'll be interviewing two founders from Coffee DAO. We have Dan, and then we also have Jon. Dan and Jon, how are
Phenomenal.
you both doing today?
How about you?
Pretty good. I went to actually my first Bitcoin meetup yesterday, and I was like really blown away by how many people are involved in the space. There's this guy who had a energy drink he was passing out, and every energy drink had a QR code
Wow.
for redeemable Satoshis. So I thought it was like a really cool business
A single
concept.
Satoshi,
But yeah,
is that right?
Nice, that's
so
awesome.
yeah, so every can had anywhere from
Oh,
500 Satoshis to like 1 million
whoa, that's
Satoshis. So I was
cool.
like, oh, that's actually pretty
All
cool.
right, right on. This guy just passing out Bitcoins like
Yeah.
that, or parts of Bitcoins.
Yeah, I mean, a nominal amount
Oh,
today might
absolutely.
not be a nominal amount in the future. So,
Oh yeah, we're still
Right,
in the infancy
exactly.
of all this. So
I mean, oh yeah, for sure. I guess, Dan, Jon, do you guys want to briefly introduce yourself and provide some background on what you're doing right now and, how you sort of got involved with Coffee DAO? I think
yeah,
that's a
absolutely.
pretty interesting component.
Actually, if I could just make a correction, it's the cafe. Yeah, no, it's okay.
Cafe DAO.
Everyone
Okay,
says
so
Coffee
sorry.
DAO. Heck, we should probably change it to Coffee DAO. We would get way more eyeballs on it. But so yeah, my name is Dan. I'm the founder of the Cafe DAO. It is a project that I've been nurturing for the last 2 years now, and we're definitely gonna see where this takes us. It's a very experimental project. I don't think anyone's attempted this before, bringing a DAO into the physical world using in a physical like space. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know if there are any other DAOs that are trying to attempt something like this, but I feel like we're the first. But yeah, I mean, it is just something that I would love to see grow, whether I lead it or someone else. I think this idea is too big for just one person, and that's why I'm so grateful that Jon's here with us. And yeah, I mean, I could go on, but yeah.
I'm Jon. I joined the DAO in, I think it was like December of 2021, just as the Discord was like going public. Um, and then, yeah, I've been with them ever since. Found it based off of a Reddit post that Dan had made. And I think the appeal at the time was that it was a DAO I could get involved in with like not having to invest anything into it. Like Dan stated, he's starting with zero cash kind of thing. I'm like, this is perfect because I'm broke, got a newborn, like this is what I need kind of thing. So yeah, jumped in for that and it's been a fun ride.
Cool. The first time I actually heard about Cafe DAO was actually I was in Seattle walking around, and there was an advertisement, like an 8.5 by 10 printed on the wall, and I think the words DAO caught my attention. I was like, I see that online when I read about these things, but it's the first time I ever seen like some sort of physical image that said the word DAO in real life. So I remember joining the Discord. I was like, wow, this is actually really cool what you guys are doing. But I mean, since probably met a couple of you guys before in the Discord, maybe I want to say a year or 2 years ago. What has the experience been like? Have you guys, I think, had a pop up?
Yeah, we've had
start
a
at least
few
once
pop-ups
already?
actually. But
You
going back to
guys,
what you
yeah.
said about the flyer, I remember just walking around town in Seattle because this is where we're based out of, and I just in the beginning of it all, like I was just thinking, man, I should just really go around, post some flyers. Like I don't know what kind of attention I would get by doing this, but like heck, if I'm going to make like a physical coffee shop using a DAO, like I'm going to put some flyers out there and spread the message, you know? So it's really funny that you mentioned that you're just walking around Seattle. And I don't think you're from Seattle. Is that
No, I'm
that's
actually
so
not. I was just
wild that
visiting. I'm actually from the Bay Area,
yeah.
so
Oh man, I
I was
remember
like,
going
oh,
to
this is pretty cool.
Starbucks with the freaking flyers, you know, and I'm just like talking to the baristas, hey, can I post this? And they're like, what the fuck is that? Like, what is a DAO? And I'm explaining it to them like a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, is a new way to structure organizations. And let me tell you about like the wonderful things a DAO could possibly do, you know, and I was like selling it to them. And a part of me was kind of hoping that I could like, you know, snatch some of those folks and have them join the Cafe DAO in some way. But no, a lot of them were really happy to let me post the flyer up on their wall, a Starbucks or like a local coffee shop. You know, I got a lot of questions, you know, which is really cool because no one knows what a DAO is, you know. What is this new structure? What is this new way of organizing people? So it was really fun to just walk around town and just engage with folks. And heck, a part of me wishes I could just keep posting those flyers up again. You know, maybe I will. Who knows? You know, the state of the crypto markets right now is starting to
Mhm.
turn. You know, there might be some more attention on blockchain technology. And heck, I don't know. Maybe I should start posting those flyers up again.
Well, it was definitely a really
Oh yeah.
good way of advertising, at least in my opinion. It's cheap and effective. Very cool. So, I mean, I got to ask, you've already had a couple events where you've done pop-up shops. Have you had a very big
Oh.
turnout? Was it sort of
Oh.
what you expected in the very beginning?
Oh my
I'm just
goodness.
curious, what
Yes.
was that experience like? Was there any
So our first
hardship?
pop
Was
up
it fun?
was April of 2021. We were invited to set up shop at the Seattle NFT Museum, and it was a 2 day event. It was incredible, actually. We had a really large turnout. I think we had 60 folks come out, and they are now token holders, and they're still token holders to this day, you know. Um, and part of the event was also a Q&A. One of our other co-founders who is not here today, his name is Dustin. Thank you so much, Dustin. I have to just, you know, shout you out, obviously, dude. Thank you for all your freaking hard work. This guy, he got on the mic and was just explaining what a decentralized autonomous organization is to these folks, you know, and it was a 2 day event, and well, man, we sold plenty of coffee. You know, although we had 60 token holders, we ended up just giving away a bunch of coffee too. So it was pretty amazing. And the folks at the Seattle NFT Museum, thank you so much for letting us be there. You know, we hope if you're here, if you're listening to this, we hope to do this again with you soon too. So, and then we had our second pop-up event with the folks of NFT Seattle, and that was our biggest event of them all too. We were invited, and we were there for 2 days. We had our pop-up shop, and heck, I don't think we for that one it wasn't so much. Um, we weren't really putting anything on the blockchain there, or like we weren't. I mean, let me explain. I'm sorry. We weren't really signing up folks to be token holders at that event. You know, we were just more spreading the message of what we were trying to do. So we were just giving away all our coffee, which is fine. You know, we had a huge turnout. You know, everyone seemed really excited to hear our message and what we were trying to do. You know, the first decentralized autonomous organization in real life that is trying to build a real world coffee shop. You know, so a lot of the attention was really like questions like how are we going to pull this off, um, where are we going to be located, are we going to try to like expand. So it was really interesting to get this like mixed bag of people, you know. A few folks were also really interested in seeing how they could help, how they can contribute, but that event was more of a of just spreading the message than actually getting folks to be token holders.
Why do you guys feel that a DAO is an important sort of business structure to have? Is there something that sort of draws it to you guys? Is there, you know, some sort of benefit as, you know, if you're an employee, you should be working for a DAO versus, you know, a large corporation? What's sort of the appeal here for, I guess, the audience if they wanted to know more?
I would say for us, it's the democracy of it and kind of the bottom up organization of it. The I think the common thread between all three of us is wanting to see like workers who have a better voice in the mission of the company and the being able to steer the company where they want to see it go. I think, at least for Dan and I, we've worked in the service industry enough. We've seen how it can be and how little control you feel like you have in that kind of a role. And, we just want to see people and also communities surrounding that business be able to have a voice in that
Yeah,
business.
just to add to what John said,
That's really
it's really
important.
about building a democratic workplace. Like, so DAOs kind of exist already in the real world. They're, you could say, analog version of them in the real world are worker cooperatives, and that's something that we're trying to emulate. And I would love to see a worker-owned cooperative DAO one day, whether it's the Cafe DAO or another organization that's inspired by the same stuff that we were inspired by, and that's workplace democracy. We have democracy here in this country. We vote for our representatives, whether locally or nationally, and why not translate that to something somewhere where you work, you know? To dissolve hierarchical structures is really what a DAO is aiming to do. So, to bring that into the real world, using a worker owned cooperative structure is really something that could be revolutionary. The melding of the digital with the physical. And it really does boil down to, can we give people a voice no matter what level of, no matter what, no matter where they are in the organization, from your lonely, person who mops the floors to like the CEO, like everyone should have a voice, and it should be equal.
I agree with you there. I really can't comment too much about the service industry, but I imagine some of the challenges are, like you said, John, is it's really difficult as an employee of the business to like voice your concerns and have some sort of like fair sort of share of your the fruits of your labor to be like distributed. I mean, I can only speak in pharmacy, and right now there's something called Pharmageddon, and pizza's not working, where a lot of pharmacists are just losing out because they're not getting the help and service they need from these large corporations and entities. But I do feel like you do have a very cool business model here that is something that other businesses or even new founders and entrepreneurs should consider adopting. It's a very cool approach. So, just out of curiosity for Cafe DAO, have there been any challenges in sort of developing this? Have you had to deal with any fear, uncertainty, doubt? And how did you sort of manage those sort of um, thoughts? Every entrepreneur goes through this journey, I imagine, and I'm sure you've had some, interesting challenges along the way.
Yeah,
Well,
Dan, do
it's
you want to
nothing
start?
but fear, and especially in the beginning of it all, just to be this one guy who puts out a Reddit post, like, what kind of reaction would you get? A DAO in the physical world. It sounds kind of silly, and part of me still thinks it is kind of silly, but I think you just got to put yourself out there, and the folks who are destined to join you will be there. They will come. They will manifest. And I'm a strong believer in putting that out there. Whether you're trying to build a little, whether you're trying to just do a little pop up coffee shop or like build a massive organization. You got to start with that single first step, and it's scary. I'm still scared. I have no idea where this idea is gonna go. Oh man. But I think that the people who are really who are listening to this, someone out there is gonna listen to this message, and whether they join our organization or not, build something of their own, I would love for them to be inspired.
Yeah, I'd say this, for me, it's kind of doing this, like I said before, with zero money and kind of a new family. Like I'm interested in the DAO aspect because I would love it if my daughters can grow up and kind of have that as the norm potentially, or as like as a viable alternative to the traditional system of like working in fast food and then finding a different job through college and whatnot, you know? So I think there's a lot of a lot of like, how do we do this with a shoestring budget kind of thing? But as Dan said, a lot of the people kind of come out of the woodwork, like, and I think that's kind of what helped overcome a lot of the fears of this is just seeing like, we had Wade, I can't remember
Oh
his
yeah.
Zero X Coffee who helped us out, right? Like he just popped up out of nowhere and was like, "Hey, you guys are doing a pop up? That's awesome. Here, let me supply coffee for you," kind of thing. Like, I'll give you a wholesale price. And we're like, "Oh my God, this is perfect. This is exactly what we need in the moment we need it," right? Like, I mean, just things like that. We had Brian, a lawyer who decided to work for us pro bono to help us out with structuring the real world aspect of this into that worker cooperative. And it's just like, it's mind blowing how often like these ideas just kind of snowball. Um, so yeah, I think that's what really kind of keeps
Yeah,
us
no,
going,
definitely.
or at least me.
Yeah, like the people coming out of the woodwork,
So
just like
cool.
same as you, James, like you coming out of the woodwork. So like I think this idea is destined. Like there's something like I again to bring up not to like sound woo woo or whatever, but like fate. I feel like this is fated. Like this idea, whether it's again, like whether the Cafe DAO does it or someone else, like this idea is too big for one person. This idea is it's gonna happen. Whether it happens a year from now or 10 years from now, I think we're moving toward that. And like the people will come out, they will build this, they will build something, they will build a DAO in the real world. And I absolutely would love to see a world where John's children, you know, will this will be the norm. When you go to work and you have a disagreement, you will place a vote, as we do with our local representatives. If you're unhappy with the state of your city, you go out and you vote. And that's what a DAO essentially is going to do. One token, one vote. And if you don't like the direction of your business, of where the business is going, you could voice that in your vote and see where the business grows, how it goes. And if you don't like the business and how it's going, yeah, sure, you could like sell your tokens and leave the organization, that's fine. And I hope that people would join another organization where they have like a democratic vote as well.
Yeah, that's super important. So, you sort of mentioned, the future. Where do you sort of see Cafe Dow in the next 5 years, 10 years?
What it
Where do you
really,
guys want to go with it?
we would really love to have a physical coffee shop. That's the whole, that's the whole point of this whole thing. We do pop-ups until one day we could get that physical coffee shop, and then we'll see how that works out. And then, we hope that we would open up more locations. I mean, that's the end goal of it all, really. And of course, to like have other people translate the DAO into other industries. So that's like the real end game.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, changing gears here, how did you guys get involved in Bitcoin and crypto Web3? Because, I mean, we talked about DAOs, and that's very niche within, I would say, the Web3 culture. But how did you guys start your journey here? Like, is there something that you said, oh my God, Bitcoin's the next great thing, or Ethereum's the next great thing? Like, how did you guys get involved in this? Like, the whole industry?
For me, I honestly don't remember like how I first learned about Bitcoin, but I know in like 2012 I was trying to figure out with a friend how we could spend our college tuition on like bit miners, right? And of course, like I listened to the reasonable side and was like, no, don't do that. And so I spent it on tuition instead when I should have actually done it and bought Bitcoin instead. Foray into crypto, and I kind of backed out of it for a while, and then at man, I don't know if it was like the algorithm of Google or whatever trying to defeat itself. Like it started showing me DAO stuff, and it's like, oh my God, there's this whole different world, right? Like this whole another use case for crypto. that could be really cool and used for like social good and like really changing the world and having such a big impact, right? Like beyond being able to buy like drugs online, you know, like um, so it's like a
That's a
vertical
very
use
common
case.
story, by the way, of like people getting introduced to Bitcoin. Actually, was at this meetup yesterday for Bitcoin, and like I would say half the people were like, "Yeah, I found out about
Oh my
Bitcoin through the
goodness.
Silk Road in 2010 or
Yeah,
11." I was
that's
like,
same here.
"It's a very
Actually, I
common
remember
story."
hearing about
Yeah,
Silk Road and
Yeah.
Bitcoin back in 2013, I think it was when they got busted. I forget exactly when it was, but and I just kept that in the back of my mind. It's just like, huh, that's really interesting. Digital currency. What the heck is that? And then finally, what was it, 2017 when Bitcoin hit 20K, and I remember I was sitting on the sidelines. I was not invested in it, but I was just like, well, when this thing pops off again, I'm definitely going to jump on board. And then, of course, 2020 happened and the pandemic, and they were just giving free money to like everyone. So I took my free money and just invested it in Bitcoin. I remember people laughing at me when I told them, I'm going to take my stimulus check and I'm going to use this to buy Bitcoin. And everyone was telling me, oh, you're stupid for doing that. You're going to lose all your money. But then a year later, who had the last laugh, right? but but I remember when what was it, 2021 was when I got introduced to the concept of decentralized autonomous organizations. And that's when I made my Reddit post and I got everyone to come on board to build the Cafe DAO. And um, when I realized that you could use blockchain technology, as John said, for social good, that kind of changed the game for me. Yeah, it's nice that you can invest your money into like Bitcoin or Ethereum and see your money grow. That's really sweet. But like the fact that you have this new tech where you could essentially like revolutionize the world, you gotta like think outside the box other than just like making money. You gotta use this technology for a social good. And and that was a game changer for me, essentially. And you know I will never leave the crypto world, like never. Like I'm here to stay, and I would love to see the world be built around this awesome technology known as blockchain.
so I gotta ask: is there one insight or fact that you wish everyone sort of understood when it came to blockchain or Bitcoin? I know you sort of mentioned the DAO aspect, but is there something else that someone might not know that you kind of wish they knew about in this world?
I feel like I want people to know that it's not a scam. You know, just yesterday I was talking to some people about NFTs, and immediately their faces were just like, they were rolling their eyes. They were just like, not about it. And I just want folks to know that there are people out there that are not Sam Bankman Fried. There are good folks out there in the crypto world that are unknown and they want to see something good. And well, going back to NFTs, really, like the use case for that is way more than just JPEGs. And I think that's where everyone's stuck at right now. They're just like, oh, you're bored apes. You're going to spend X amount of dollars on that for this like picture that you can just download for free. Like, you got to be dumb to do that. But I disagree. Like, I want folks to know that there's a nugget of something really good there. And I think we need to like really communicate that message to folks. The crypto's not a scam. I think is really what we need to send out there into the world.
And I'd add that I think it's still early, right? Like, I know we've already gone through a few boom bust cycles and whatnot, but as far as like innovation, I think it's still early. I think there's still, as Dan alluded to, plenty of innovation there that we can keep iterating on and keep making it better and keep finding different use cases for crypto, ways of making it more accessible to people and, scaling up basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, we are still pretty early. I think I read a statistic that 2 to 3% of the world owns crypto, and that's still a pretty relatively low number. Of that percentage, I mean, how many are actually transacting on a daily basis? I'd wager it's even less than that. So I do feel like we are pretty early. We have Bitcoin's halving coming up. I think it's going to be on 420 of next year. That's the or proposed date. I think they're trying to get that block to mine on that final block to mine on that date. But do you guys have any issues or concerns with money or Bitcoin in particular? Like, is there something sort of controversy that you have? Or
Oh yeah, definitely. Like my big one is the government needs to stay out of it. Well, yes, there needs to be regulation, absolutely, but the government should not be making CDBCs. Like I'm very anti-government CBDC. And that's and I know that the that there are aspects of the government, governments in the world that are trying to like build something like that, a blockchain tech that they control. And I think that's a horrendous idea, to have a government fully control your money. That is absolutely anti democratic. And I will do everything in my power to like not have that happen. I think that's the big controversy for me. What about you, John? What do you think?
Honestly, I don't really have an opinion at the moment. It's been a minute since I've kept up with Bitcoin. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't really have too much to say on that one. Sorry.
all right, CBDCs are very concerning to me. I do believe that money is the ultimate expression and freedom of speech. You should be able to express yourself and do whatever you want. I think it's absolutely crazy if the government can just shut down your checking account because
Yeah,
you're dissenting from political opinion or you have some
absolutely.
sort of
I don't know if you remember
different
this,
belief.
but last year,
That's
what was it in
crazy.
Canada? They were shutting down folks' banks accounts who were protesting, and that's just like an example of like what the government can do if they control your money, and that's absolutely fucking scary. Um, and
I agree with you. I 100% agree with you there. That's a great example, by the way. What sort of is the most difficult part in journey and explaining Bitcoin to a lot of people is that a lot of people have this mindset of like it won't happen to me. I'm not that person. I'm not someone who dissents or has opinions. But I think this is just an attack on everyone when you sort of have people who are bricks from using their own bank account, they're bricks from using, their own wallet on Bitcoin. I don't know how Justin Trudeau is going to do that, but it's very concerning, I think. I always see this mindset when having explained, the merits of Bitcoin to people. People are always like, well, it won't happen to me. It's, impossible. But, we had gold confiscated from every single American
that's
for
right.
missing,
Yes.
back
Yeah.
in the
And
30s.
to go back to what you were saying about like the government being able to turn off your account essentially. Like if a centralized digital currency were to arise in the United States here, like what would the government could essentially shut down your account if like you're making like a what they deem a malicious purchase, or like what if like maybe you're I don't know who could potentially see that. Maybe like the government could share that information with like an insurance company possibly, right? And like deny you purchases of certain items because that might be in their eyes bad for you. So like that's just like really scary for me when I think of these digital currencies that governments could essentially roll out. And a part of me is really nervous about the future with that because you know, things are getting kind of bad out there. The world is devolving right now. And a part of me thinks, well, one day maybe this whole thing is going to collapse. The economy will collapse and people will just be chomping at the bit for like a digital currency. And the government could just roll it out. And who's to say that they can't like give you all this free money essentially, right? And then just turn it off whenever you're not making a correct purchase. So that has me concerned, and that's why like people need to be out there and voicing Bitcoin as like the alternative.
There's sort of a topic I have a hard time addressing head on, and this has to do with some politicians accusing crypto of funding terrorism. And I've sort of read into this narrative, and I feel like this amount that they're claiming, how much was raised for terrorism is just completely absurd. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I believe, they mentioned Hamas here. They talked about how Hamas raised almost like billions of dollars in funds, but when you actually look at the on-chain data, it's actually far less. The wallets that they blacklisted they included everyone that lived in this area of Palestine. So it was just like a huge overreach. The second part with this is that Hamas actually did ask for cryptocurrency donations, but they stopped it immediately after because a lot of their donors were getting doxxed, and then their donors would essentially be, targeted. So I do feel like, having on-chain, like a public ledger where anyone can see and trace is like a very powerful thing. It prevents these actions from happening. But I've seen this narrative in FUD recently about, it funds terrorism, which I just don't believe that to be true. A lot of these donations actually came from like Tether or some sort of like CBDC that's controlled by a third party. But it's just something, I've seen as a recent controversy, especially with Elizabeth Warren kind of pushing this narrative. But I'd love to just know your thoughts.
Yeah, people have
if you
always
have
been
any
saying stuff
thoughts
like
on
that. I think back in like the early 2000s, people were saying marijuana funds terrorism too. So like it's all FUD.
That's true. That's true. The U.S. dollar is used, I think, for the number one like
Exactly.
currency to
Yes,
settle for
absolutely. People are still freaking murdering folks and like selling crazy drugs for cash. So like, let's shut down cash. The U.S. dollar is aiding terrorism and all these illegal activities. So like, let's shut that down.
Yeah, it's not a good logic. It's also like saying the internet facilitates drug transactions.
Exactly.
Facilitates money
And
movements as
blockchain,
well. So yeah,
like, yes, there are
it's not a
aspects
good
of it that are bad. Of course, there are nefarious folks out there that are using blockchain tech for their terrible reasons. But the but the greater things far outweigh the terrible things. That's 100% for sure.
Are there any specific sort of Bitcoin or crypto projects, innovations, or use cases that excite you currently at the moment?
I don't know if Dan has any, but I was going to say there was one that I was just checking on today. I don't know if it's still going. Um, 3DOS? I don't even know if that's how they pronounce it or if it's 3DOS. It's probably 3DOS. Anyway, they're trying to do decentralized manufacturing, and that's been like one area I've been consistently interested in since I learned about DAOs and just how you could potentially like implement decentralized manufacturing. So, yeah, I think
Powerful. That's really cool.
I think it could be one of those game changers, right? Like just kind of unlocks it for globally people to be able to do more stuff and coordinate better. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest area that I get excited about these
I
days.
can't really think of anything. I mean, other than the Cafe DAO, of course.
Well, you do.
But um,
Mhm.
I can't really think of
That
any
is pretty
projects
cool.
that are really in like the on the front burner for me. I'm just really excited to see, other than Bitcoin grow, of course, with especially with the potential for these ETFs coming out soon. But I really like to see the growth of Ethereum. Ethereum, I feel like is the real game changer and is the real use case of blockchain technology. So I would just love to see people building on Ethereum. That's really it, and I'm really excited about layer twos, of course, on Ethereum and like that potential, and transacting for much cheaper is really, really something that I'd like to do. Because man, transacting on Ethereum is not cheap, especially since we're trying to build this
It's
organization.
expensive.
The Cafe DAO. I'd love to see on Ethereum on an L2. Really cheap transactions. You know, um, so there still has to be a lot of development with the Cafe DAO, of course. It's still extremely experimental. We're not even on a blockchain per se exactly. I mean, we're on our own blockchain that is, well, we could talk some more about the tech behind it, but like, I feel like I wouldn't be able to explain it super well because like our the guy who wrote our white paper, he's not here today with us, so he would be able to explain it way better than I would. But like, yeah, oh, absolutely, Dustin,
We'll
if
have to
you're
get him on
listening
the
to
next
this, dude,
podcast.
we need you to explain.
If there's one thing you guys can fix in the world,
Wow,
what
that's a
would it
big
be and
one.
why?
Oh boy. I mean, it really does boil down again to like the Cafe DAO and democracy in the workplace. I've I'm constantly reading articles about how Gen Z and millennials are so upset in the workplace and how they want to just and there's so much clashing of the generations, between the boomers and Gen Z. So I feel like worker-owned cooperatives or DAOs could really revolutionize the workplace, and I think there should be some more eyeballs on that.
For me, I'm kind of a hippie in that regard. I kind of just kick money to the curb and get rid of classes if I could. Like, I think the whole class war BS is just what, I mean, I don't know. I'm chasing utopia in my head, right? But I think it would be really awesome if we could coordinate on a global scale. Like, what could we achieve if we could all kind of point ourselves in the same direction and, effectively
Yeah, I
coordinate?
would really love for folks to just understand other people's
This is
intent.
some great
You
points.
know, I feel like a lot of the disagreements that we have right now between individuals is just like intent. And if there were a way to like translate that without like using words, that would change everything, But there's no way to do that. So yeah, until then, maybe Elon Musk could change that with Neuralink. Who the fuck knows? But
Would you
oh
get a
heck
Neuralink in your
no,
head? I don't
heck
know if I
no.
would.
It is no. It needs to be like proven and like God bless the folks that are, putting their bodies through that because, that's kind of scary.
So I got to ask one fun question here. And, Bitcoin's halving is coming up next year, hopefully on 420. Do you guys have any price predictions of what this number will be in the future? Could be an estimate.
I mean, I think it could go sky high. I don't see any reason why it would stop. I mean, as long as there's a server plugged in somewhere, there's always Bitcoin, right? So,
True.
I, depends on how far out you go. Another 50, 60 years, I think it's gonna, I don't know, half a million. I think that it'll trend
Yeah,
upward
definitely. I'm
ultimately.
gonna say, uh, so yeah, like $1 million, definitely. Like in the next decade, for sure. Like when the gold ETF came out, like if you were to look at that chart right before it, it was relatively low, and then the ETF over 10 years, you see this exponential growth. So like, who's to say that that's not going to happen to Bitcoin? So yeah, there's exponential growth that's going to happen, and what dollar amount that ends up being, who knows? And I would love to see the world where like you can't give it a dollar amount because everything's transacting on Bitcoin on the blockchain. So you know.
Very true. That'll be some fun price predictions. But I think definitely on the next podcast, we'll look back on this and say, well, who is closer to that number? I think that'd be pretty funny. I have a very bullish case. My investment thesis has actually changed in the last couple of years. I've gone out of real estate and equities. I've converted everything to Bitcoin. Just to tell you how crazy I am, my entire 401k,
Amazing.
my IRA is all in Bitcoin
That's
now.
awesome.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so it's become my investment thesis because I look at this, I'm like, this is the when I look at this, I was getting the same feeling I had when I was at my aunt's house discovering internet for the first time. I think like being 6 or 7 years old. I was like, the applications here is like it's the new TCP/IP of the internet, but for financial transactions. So I knew like this is like the next big thing I wanted to be involved in, and yeah, who knows? I might have to go back to work with this
Oh,
thesis next week.
absolutely. I'm
I
with
have
you
to
too, man.
implement
All my money is in blockchain tech. Absolutely. So I'm there with you.
So we're almost wrapping up on time here, but do you guys have any final thoughts or messages you'd love to share with the audience?
I don't have anything personally. No fun, good words of wisdom or anything like that. Um, yeah, support the Cafe DAO when you see it on your street corner in the next, I don't know,
Yeah.
5 years or
For
so.
me, I would really love to leave your listeners with the message of the Cafe DAO is still something that we would love to grow. Whether that is led by us or someone else, that's up to well, the universe really. But check out thecafedao.com, read our white paper. We're still, although we're currently on pause right now, we don't have any upcoming events. We would love to see some folks come out and support us, and I'd love to see some new folks join the organization, build something, and give us some new fresh fresh vibes, fresh blood. I would love to see this organization grow along with Bitcoin and Ethereum and all, and in the whole blockchain sphere, really. And heck, we would love to hear other folks' ideas on how a decentralized autonomous organization can be used in the real world. What are the use cases for it? Are they good? Are they bad? I would love just to really hear from other folks.
Social media channels, and how can people reach out to you if they
We have a
to
Twitter,
DAO?
or X, I should say. That's the Cafe DAO. That's the Cafe DAO altogether. So check us out on Twitter. Jon is our social media man, so he could probably speak more about that.
Yeah, we have the Twitter account. We have Discord. Our website is
Yes.
thecafedao.com. It's been a minute since I've been there.
Cafe is spelled
That's right. Yeah.
COFFEE. Right? Just want to make sure the audience
COFEDAO.
hears
Yeah.
correctly.
And that's the
Okay.
Cafe DAO.
Yeah, thecafedao.com. It still works. It's still up. I
Yeah.
know we haven't updated in a minute, but it's still there. But yeah, our white paper's on there, as well as links to the Discord.
Very cool. Dan, Jon, thanks for being on the Orange Pill Club podcast. It was really
Thank you so much for having us, James. It was really nice talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us.
Until next time.
Take care.